It's the last half hour, guys. Hooray. Hands up, wave. Do you want me to see? Oh, I had a bet with Stephen earlier. Are you willing to get warmed up at the end of the evening? Are you willing to do a wave from this side to that side, just for the benefit of the panel who've been waiting all day? We'll start here. Hands up. Then move across. There you go, Stephen. Told you they'll do anything you tell them.
Impressive.
Yeah. Right.
Mark, you probably want to invite Christoph back up on the stage. He's adult diapers and toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
This is the shift happens.
Yeah, we have had incontinence, which is shit happens. So we're now doing shift happens. It's a slight change from some of the people on the agenda, but we've got a brilliant panel. The person I would do a special mention to is Russell Buckley, who's, believe it or not, can't be here because his passport's been withheld by the Chinese embassy. I won't go into more detail, but some of the stuff I'm going to chat through at the start to set this up is from Russell. We've got a panel of fantastic entrepreneurs. Just let me introduce you. From my left, your left to right, we've got Cameron Newell, who's previously a recovering lawyer, now in the Silicon Valley. And when we asked how many companies Cameron's set up and sold and has an interest, he sort of spent too long counting, so I won't say how many are. He now does stuff in HTML5, particularly in mobile. If you go down and see AdTouch downstairs, that's Cameron's, chief exec of that. Then we have Stephen Messer. Stephen didn't ask me to say this, but I'll tell you. Stephen used to own a company called Linkshare, which he sold in 2005 for $500 million. Okay? And he just does nothing. But apparently he's quite happy to do lots of things. But he runs something now called Collective Eye, which is out of the States, solves big data problems for companies, so worth having a chat to. And also the Council for Accountable Advertising, which we seem to have a need for. And then finally we have Peter Goodman. And Peter is the wonderful thing. He's an English entrepreneur. So we've got an Australian, an American, and an Englishman. He's not a techie originally. And can we give a round of applause to Peter? Because he's just had his baby about 4 weeks ago, who's Joshua James. And he very kindly came out at short notice, and he sold his company in February to Buddy Media, and it's a company of 23 people, so there you go. And he runs a Facebook ad management platform. So we've got social media, we've got data, and we've got quite a few people. So we've got entrepreneurs. I'll start off with a quote from George W. Bush, who said, the problem with the French, they don't know a word for entrepreneur. Just to start things off. And let me start with just chatting about the concept of shift. We're going to talk generally about this, but this is from Russell. Does anybody know the concept of exponential growth? Yeah? Know what it means? But we're very comfortable with dealing with linear things. So if I asked you how far stuff is from here to the back, you could have a guess. Exponential growth is the idea that things double within a period of time. You've all heard the computer's memory doubles and so forth. So just to explain what that actually means, this is the Burnabout, I think. Is that correct? It holds 150,000, and just to put this in context, if at the start of a game, someone put a drop of water on the halfway line, and it didn't absorb, and then every minute that drop doubled, how long do you think it would be if you're in the very top tier, in the very top row, before you drowned? A couple of weeks? Day? It's 49 minutes. That's exponential growth. Now, okay, the issue is, however, if you're sitting at the top tier, and it's 4 minutes, it gets to 45 minutes gone, all you're seeing, you're standing there going to your mate, oh look, there's water on the pitch. Because then it goes whoosh. So when people say it's when was the year of mobile and it seemed to suddenly arrive, that's because that's what happens. So if I take the concept of mobile, which I'll put through, and take it another round, we have a big lake out the back. Yep. If I put a lily on that lake and it grew exponentially, so within 30 days, the whole of Lake Geneva was filled in lilies, right? When I got to 20 days, so 2/3 of the days, how much of Lake Geneva would be covered in lilies? Any idea? It's 1 of 1%. So all the growth occurs towards the end. So it's not, it goes like that, which is why it's interesting and why technologies are quite scary things. And I'll give you an example with this thing called mobile. I'll just click on this. This was a spoof ad that when the iPhone came out.
Your life doesn't have room for any more devices. Introducing the revolutionary new iPhone from Apple. It's here to set you free. It's a camera. It's a movie player. A remote control. A bottle opener. An electric razor. A blow dryer. A mouse trap. It's lip gloss. A condiment dispenser. Mace. A cheese grater. Sonogram, treadmill, children's thermometer, a portable shower, bookmark, a hand grenade, a pan flute, it sideburns, and it's a prophylactic. It's also a hard-to-use cell phone. The iPhone, it's everything, except a good phone.
So that came out when the iPhone came out, okay? Just to put in context, the iPhone has its 5th anniversary this June. It's only 5 years. Half of the things in that would seem jokey are now true. It's a treadmill. You heard about Nike and its fuel connecting to your phone. It is a sonogram. It is a pan flute. So half of the stupid spoofs that are in there are now possible within the phone. And what the mobile phone has done is sort of done all. Who remembers the pager? That's the things in the 80s that media people used to use to pretend they were in when they went to the pub at lunchtime. So the mobile phone has cannibalized that. The calculator, no one's redesigned the calculator because there's no money in calculators. That's why they all look the same, always have, always will. Anybody ever go to a hotel and they say, would you like a room call? Don't do that anymore, but we still do that in hotels. I don't know why. PDA, remember those? The camera. So on the video camera, quite shortly, probably mobile games. The next one, landlines. When's the last time you rang a place? You ring a person, don't you? And then music. In fact, one of the reasons that Apple did the iPhone was because actually the phone was going to cannibalize the iPod anyway, so you may as well do it first. And then, of course, anybody's got any shares in sat-nav systems? Probably wouldn't. So you get the general idea. That's in terms of exponential growth of what we want to do. So what we're going to do is chat as a panel about some of those issues in terms of the idea. But we've got entrepreneurs who are going to talk very much about what it means to the agency market and the agency model. So we'll just go over, if that's OK with you. So guys, first question. Do you think the world's changing?
No, not really. No, not at all.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
Right, we go there.
Well, let's go to the pub.
Yeah. OK.
Comedy.
There you go, that's it.
Genius.
That took us an hour to rehearse. It took an agency, worldwide creative agency, 16 weeks to come up with that. What do you view as the most disruptive change we're seeing in media and technology? Cameron?
Well, clearly, from our point of view, mobile, and particularly the mobile web, HTML5 is going to be a game changer over the course of the next 2, 3, or 4 years. So we're going to see some massive change in the way we consume content. We see it with the tablet now. That is only going to increase. It's a fundamental shift in the market, and that's
okay,
the
so for the benefit of people here who will nod to HTML5, haven't got a clue what you're talking about, explain why HTML changes things.
Well, HTML5 allows you to produce content and distribute it anywhere, so on any mobile device. So it's certainly a game changer in terms of the way we consume content. We built the original web. The content has been built for the old desktop. Right. Now we're consuming content on our mobile phones, on our tablets, and that's a game changer.
Okay, Stephen.
Look, I'm clearly here to talk about data, which is a problem because data, like the word change, means whatever you want it to mean for yourself. So, when I say data is changing, what I mean is that you're moving from a gut economy where we're rewarded for making good decisions based on past experience to a time when we're using the latest information or the most available information, using it in conjunction with systems that help make sure it's clean, it's accurate, it's up to date, and it's analyzed properly to make very intelligent decisions that may be very different than past decisions.
Okay.
Strangely, I'm here to talk about social media. There's a theme. And basically, I think what we saw in the past is, obviously the internet has paved the way for people to create their own content and publish it. And I think social media has actually allowed people to distribute that very efficiently and sort of on a scale that's never been seen before. And I think now what we're starting to see is a seismic change in the fact that the brands are getting involved in this change, in this content creation and distribution via the social media platforms, and actually starting to get involved in conversations, have conversations with people, and actually start to lead conversations with people. And I think that's going to be the biggest shift that we're starting to see and will continue to change. And obviously the different platforms upon which it will be sort of consumed and the data analysis that come from it, and obviously the different platforms where you will do it actually sort of completes the circle a little bit.
Okay, we saw the agency CEOs up earlier, you're all entrepreneurs, so you haven't worked in agency. I know you've all touched them in terms of what you do. What do you think the mindset of the way of an entrepreneur thinks? So if you set this up, you've set a business up with 23 people, you're on the 6. There's a rapid difference to what you do. What's the difference in entrepreneur technology business mindset is to what you might see in an agency?
I heard another fellow entrepreneur, much more famous than myself, describe it the other day about being an entrepreneur and what makes us different. It's it's really what we do is take a fork and stab ourselves in the eye every day. It's very painful being an entrepreneur. You're at the edge of change. You're trying to do things that others probably think you're crazy. That's a very different mindset to someone that's charged with running a brand, particularly if it's a brand that's been around for a long period of time, 100 years or so. You've got to have a different mindset. You're a custodian of a brand. We're not custodians of anything at the moment. We're trying to make things happen. It's a very different, it's a completely different mindset.
But agencies always claim that, not to rude agencies, we're going to do this for this, but what's the fun? But you've done it, and Facebook's done it, and Google's done it, and everybody else. What's the fundamental difference that you see in the mindset, or what stops an agency doing it, or what's they have to become to be more like you?
I think it's the ability to be able to fail and come again from an entrepreneur's perspective. And we were talking about it earlier that almost if you haven't failed, you haven't tried. And I think that it's very risky, and you can say about agencies that they don't risk enough or try enough, but ultimately, if the client doesn't enter into a partnership with them to allow them to risk and allow them to run some failures, then ultimately they are going to stay safe and keep doing what they do. And I think that we're not bound by anything other than keeping, whether we've got investors happy or our clients happy, but ultimately they have a much more reliance on ensuring that their clients are happy for the survival of their business.
As a British entrepreneur, we were chatting earlier about the difference between an American failing, but what's the difference?
I mean, we were saying, again, that the biggest thing for me that's always been is that when you sit around in a pub with your friends and you have a conversation and a business idea comes out every pint that comes out, and they get worse and worse as more beers come. And you sit there in the end and you're just like, for God's sake, just stop talking about it and just do it. And it's the reluctance of trying because of the fear of failure. And I think that again, the badge, you get war wounds and scars and battle scars in America of failure is seen as a good thing. And I think in the UK it hasn't been. I think it's changing quite dramatically, but I think that was always the concern. And pride plays such a part in failure and reluctance to try.
I would say agencies should not be entrepreneurs.
No.
Our entire job is to disrupt an industry in a sense of stealing it away from whoever has it. So our job is to look and say, over time, something that you've done historically that's worked very well, whatever it may be external factors, it may be internal factors, but something has changed where the logic no longer works. And everyone's trying to take a broken model and sort of tinker around it. What an entrepreneur does is say, okay, let's go to the root cause of what that is, knowing full well that it will most likely disrupt and destroy everything around it. And we get excited by that. And so our job is to go out there and say, whatever that thing was that you were all making a living on, that everyone relies on, let's screw it all up completely and just do it this way. And then we go out and try to convince the world that this way is right, and we have logic on our side. And logic means we can usually get interest on our side as well. And so if all we do is argue logic all day long, well then we lose. But we usually are able to say, this new model works so much better. So whether we're talking about mobile, data, or social, we can go out there and say, look, consumers don't want to be told what to do, they want to listen. And you're a consumer and you say, yeah, I'm kind of sick of being told what to do. And so you say, okay, I'm willing to give it a shot. That's all we need, because if logic is on our side, we'll end up winning that. An agency has to go back and explain to someone the broken model how they're going to tweak around the edges. So if you bring one of us into your organization, we will create so much havoc inside of your organization that you will call us your worst employee. But we're actually doing exactly what we're meant to do. The problem is the rest of your organization is designed to perfect what you've done for years so that every mistake you've made from the past, you sort of incorporate into making sure you do things better in the future. Whereas our job is to look and say, this thing is all screwed up. Like, I'm already looking at this table, and I'm looking at all the glasses and saying, okay, that's a mistake, right? They're having two mics, a mic on my chest and a mic in front of me, and I'm thinking, God, that's an opportunity. And it's not even an opportunity I want to go after because it's not big enough for me, but I can't help myself. Can you imagine what I'm like inside of your boardroom? Every meeting's like, why are we having this meeting? You're going to hate us. So that's the difference between, I think, an agency and an entrepreneur.
But practically, if an agency's got clients and dealing with this stuff, what do they do? Because they can have you disrupt, or what do they do? So if you can't bring you in, what do they do?
I mean, I think it's what they do right now, which is they partner with companies like us. They say, okay, we have expertise in data or mobile or social, and it's really through a partner that's it's an entrepreneur. And look, by the way, I'm not saying entrepreneurs are great. I will argue with you, most entrepreneurs should get out of their businesses within 10 years, because once they've established an industry, what we are all horrible at is perfecting things. I mean, you will find an entrepreneur will get bored as soon as they own the market share. As soon as the place where everyone else in the world says, oh my God, you've built this amazing business, you're sitting there going, oh, am I going to kill myself? Like, get me out of this place. Because all I want to do is play with something new and disrupt a new industry because it's a new challenge to me. And so, you know, there's a handoff point where, you know, us working with an agency means we both have a significant benefit. The key is to not have envy of the other side. And I think that's the hard part, where an agency will go into a pitch and want to have something new from a sales pitch perspective, and they'll say, oh, I get data, or I get, you know, mobile or social better than anyone. They don't. What they should say is, we have this unbelievable relationship with this entrepreneur who gets it really well, because over time, more and more of what's going to migrate over is the execution phase. And we're never going to do that as well as sort of an agency.
I'll just take you to, if you go and see agencies, yeah, what's one of the things that drives you up the wall? So if you're entrepreneurial and you've got stuff that's interesting and you're going to see, so what sort of, you know, I'm sure there's nice things.
No, for sure. No,
what drives you up the wall?
Yeah, no, we work really well with agencies, and I think that the biggest thing that always amazes me is that the first question that comes out of any mouth is like, how much does it cost, rather than sort of what does it do? And it becomes a price point question rather than a practical, how can I add value? How does this add value to my client? And actually, the price is always very much a sticking point. And again, whether it's the function of the business model upon which they operate is how it is, but something has to change. Otherwise, it's always going to be the cheapest. They take the cheapest technology, which isn't the best technology, because it's not, you know, the cheapest doesn't make it the best. And sometimes the most expensive doesn't make it the best either. But it's paying a fair price for a product that is actually going to add huge value to you as an organization in efficiencies, but also as your clients.
And what about, so if you're going and talking about iPads, and what's the reality of?
Yeah, so we just had a good example a couple of weeks ago. We were inside a large agency for a very large brand in the US, and we were told that the client yet had not given them the brand had not given them a tablet strategy. And, you know, I guess the question came from us is, well, what are you waiting for? The consumer's already, there are going to be 300 million of these things out there by the end of this year. So what are you waiting for? Right? People want to consume content on that device. And you can spend the next 6 or 8 months trying to figure out what the strategy might be, or you could dive in and do things and experiment. And that's obviously what entrepreneurs, that's what obviously we want them to do. And that's why we're building business around things that we see that we can make a difference.
He asked a practical question, which is, why didn't they turn to you and say, can you come in and work with us for a half day with a client? It's a big customer.
Yeah, well, so how often has that happened?
Never.
You rarely, right? So how many times do you go and pitch, and your pitch will end up in their pitch, but they won't credit you with it? So it doesn't happen, right? I don't think I've, rarely been in front of a client with the agency.
So, for example, you have three entrepreneurs up here who look to the agencies and say, you don't have an expertise in this. We're obviously the early adopters. We're the ones who look at this. We would love nothing more than to work with you to figure out how to make a success with one big client. And yet I've never, in my 17 now years, have ever been invited to sit with a client or even do a half-day offsite to come with a strategy, because we have every intent to want to make that successful, because we need clients to demonstrate the technologies that we come out with to highlight the differences. Because our sales pitches are like yours. At the end of the day, I talk about data. If I asked everyone here, does anyone do analytics? Everyone does. Because if you say 2 + 2 is 4, I just did analytics. And so everyone thinks, oh, well, we care about all this stuff. But until we have a demonstrable client, we sit in this challenge. So when agencies wonder about how to do something entrepreneurial, don't bring entrepreneurs in by trying to hire them, because trust me, good entrepreneurs will never go there. They should be trying to create strategic partnerships or alliances, because we need them as much as they do. And I think they'd find it'd be a pretty powerful. So
this data, I'll go back to your statement. So this thing called data, which everybody claims, so it's like, we've got data, we've got big data, and we've got, what's the reality of data? We've heard different people saying, well, what it is, and what do you think the issues are with how people talk about data? Or
so data, like I said, it's sort of like, I'm neutral on politics, but Obama's, change campaign was beautiful, because everyone could say, I believe in change, but it's my change. And data can be everything from I use spreadsheets to I have a statistician to I make the numbers look good. because I want them to be successful, to represent the campaign well. It can be reports. It means everything to everybody. But the reality is there's an infrastructure that most companies are missing that allow them to sort of manage data and cleanse it, load it in a proper way, make sure the analyses are clean and done consistently across everyone. And then there's a set of people on top of that. I have to figure out, how do I analyze these problems to get an accurate answer? But in the end of the day, all that stuff should be behind the scenes to someone saying, I need to click on an answer to get an up-to-date information.
Okay, so if agents, not saying agencies can't do, haven't got to hire people, but if you were to advise an agency what they're good at or what they should do, so you're saying partnership, what would you say to an agency, look, this is what you do that they're better at than what you guys do? What would you tell them to do?
The hardest part about all this, look, there's a brute force in dealing with data. It's the size, the scale, the complexity, the number of sources. That's not for an agency, that's a tech issue. Where they are amazing at is the interpretation of data and the creativity. Interpreting what an analysis means and understanding a framework for how to then take it forward and then measure it as it goes to make sure that that creativity part works is something computers are horrible at. You saw this morning with the CTO of Amazon talking about Mechanical Turk. There are certain challenges that technology is horrible at. If anyone survived 2007 and was in the mortgage buying business, you realize that, look, not all things can be quantified. And when you look back in history, history rhymes. It doesn't necessarily, it's not an accurate predictor. And so, you know, when people say I do analytics, they're almost saying things that they're acting like a god in the sense by saying, look, the numbers guarantee I'm right, when actually very few people would ever say numbers guarantee right. There is a good and a bad way of doing things, but the interpretation and creativity is the single hardest part of everything that exists in this marketplace. That's why everyone's paid so much money. The analyzing of data is not.
Okay, right, little short question now for you. So fill in the missing word. In turn, social media makes things, fill the word in, Cameron?
Now.
Now,
yeah.
Explain that.
Well, it's not, it is now what we should be thinking about, but social media changes the way a brand or anyone has to deal with somebody else, right? So if you know, there's some sort of drama out there, if you're a brand and you've had some sort of drama, you know, everyone is going to start tweeting about it, putting it on Facebook. You've got to react in the now, right? You can't wait. You can't call your PR firm up. You've got to have access to your. I was talking to a very large company, to their senior executive team, and this was the senior executive team, and they were complaining that they couldn't get access to the web to post something on their own site in the middle of a drama that they were having, right? Because the IT guys had to go through a bunch of things, right? So those sorts of things, if you can't react now, you've got a big problem.
Okay, social media makes things
Confusing.
Why?
Well, you know, look, you're listening to all your customers scream at you all at once, and you're trying to then assume you understand what they're trying to say and why. And I think that is probably the most important conversation that you're going to have with your customers, but trying to understand how you should respond to them and how you should relate to them without creating either the social equivalent of a flame war or also by turning it into your favor is a challenging thing.
Okay, Peter, social media, you're a social media person, I'm waiting for this one. So social media makes things
even. Is my
Go
word.
on, even.
Now, the reason being is that everyone's got the opportunity to use social media, you know, big brands, small brands, and it's not about how much money you throw at something, it's about how well you spend, you know, how much you invest, what you do with it. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges. And we saw it earlier, you know, 400 million, I think the number was from Group M's investment. And the comment was that the time that they put into it doesn't really represent the investment that they're putting in, and it shouldn't. Because ultimately it's something that can't be measured on dollar investment, it can be measured on, you know, what you get out of it and how much value you add.
Okay, all right, so I'll start with you this time.
Yep.
Mobile makes things
even.
Oh, thank you. What's the chances of agencies surviving the next 5 years? Evens, yeah.
The reason I like mobile is that the reason I say even is that the distribution network that the devices give individuals, and you look at app developers that have had huge successes. I mean, let's not be shy about it. There's been some failures as well, but it gives people a level playing field. You create good, engaging content, you can have it distributed.
Okay, so mobile makes things
specific. You think about the level of personalization that you used to require on the web. Maybe I need to know the context of what someone was looking at, but now I actually need to know the context of what they're doing. They're no longer sitting behind a computer anymore. When I'm in a mobile, I might be driving, hopefully not doing it while I'm driving, but I might be out in the middle of a field somewhere. I might be in the middle of a Walmart store. So trying to understand what I'm messaging to that person through that device takes on a completely new set of variables that can either make the experience just unbelievably targeted for the user, unbelievably relevant, or completely just asinine.
Okay. You're a mobile person, so this has got to be good. Mobile makes things.
Well, just playing off what Stephen said, it's relevant, right? We can formally declare that this year is the year of mobile, right?
Is it?
It is.
Formally?
Formally declared,
Can you tweet that someone? Well, I can't do it right here.
But it's back to, it's relevant, it's location, right? Where are you at any given point, and what can we do as an industry to serve you a message that is relevant to where you are at any point in time, right? So I'm here in Montreux, it's very different to me being in Palo Alto and Silicon Valley. So maybe there should be a different message sent to me, right? And as marketers, they're the challenges that we've got to overcome with mobile, because frankly, ultimately everything's going to be mobile, and it isn't that far away.
Okay, right. I've got a little question for the audience now. So you need an opinion on this one. We're going to. Right. Has anybody heard of something called Instagram? Hands up. You heard of Instagram? All right. There you go. For those who haven't, Instagram is an 18-month-old startup. It's a photo sharing app founded by a guy called Kevin Systrom, an ex-Harvard graduate and ex-Google employee. It has 30 million followers, has never made a cent. And it's been bought by Facebook for $1 billion last week. Okay? So here's the question I want you to vote on. Do you think that's a good investment by Facebook? Hands up if you... hands up if you think it's a bad investment. How could they play a million? Hands up if you think it's a bad investment. Hands up. So, right, you can't sit on the fence and abstain.
Could I?
Right, hands up if you think it's a good investment. Ooh. So there's a lot of abstainers. Right, I'll do that again. Hands up if you think it's a bad investment. You have to vote. Yep. No, you're not. You can do that in the bar. Bad or good, guy? Right, good. Right, hands up for bad again. See, more bads now. Hands up for good. Okay, ready? We'll do the same for these guys. Hands up for bad. Hands up for good. Okay. Do you want to know why? So explain to me. What is it that Facebook sees in the value of Instagram that makes it worth $1 billion?
It's disruptive. It's completely disruptive. The Instagram still has the opportunity to completely disrupt Facebook. 90%, I don't know what the number is, but it's like a very large number of the activity that actually happens on Facebook is about photos. Zuckerberg is obviously a genius, but he sees things very simply. We're all going to move to mobile. I need to have a play in that space. What is the one that's most likely to succeed or is succeeding right now and that's going to disrupt my market? I need to buy it, and he needed to buy that at any price.
Okay. Stephen?
There were plenty of social networks before Facebook. There was the Globe, there was 6 Degrees. All of them grew, they did well, but the activity was, quote, relatively low. The number one thing that changed for all the social networks was photos. And Instagram, in a short amount of time, has essentially become the king of photos and sharing photos amongst your friends. Losing that part of the market could make Facebook less relevant. And when you become less relevant, it's funny, in our space, when you become partially less relevant in the discussion.
Partially less relevant.
In other words, if everyone is not talking to you about you all the time,
right,
as the example, that is the demise of your business. So today when people talk about Facebook, they look at Google as the next Yahoo, right? And when they look at Yahoo, they looked at it as the next AOL.
So what's your view on Google? Go on.
My feeling is Google's started a downward decline that probably will continue for a long time.
Well, yeah, Zuckerberg's only got to start search, right? So, and they're working on that, guaranteed, right? So,
but search is still raw data. It's not even, Wikipedia was a big dent in search, but at least worked inside of search where they could capture that. Yeah. You look at some of the newer things that are coming out where people want things summarized or pre-built for them, the rise of Pinterest. You look at,
Siri. Siri is a great one.
Huge right? example. People look at searches. Look, when's the last time you needed 1 million results back? Because you only went to 6. And so, the first page is pretty much where almost everyone goes. So if someone can summarize the first 6 things very effectively, Google sucks. And so, frankly, they're horrible innovators. They're great improvements guys. And so I think they run a real risk of.
How would you describe them?
I believe they're the Toyota of the internet. They neither invent anything new, but they are unbelievably good at perfecting things.
Okay. Oh, to take back to the data bit, is there any data play that Facebook is going from the pictures thing? So is there any other?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, when you're talking, this goes back to personalization. It's when I load up all my photos from the night before into Facebook the next day so we can all have a good laugh about, what happened. That's very different than my friend just fell over, I took a photo, everyone knows instantly. And they know where we are, and they know how to laugh, and they know how to post comments on it. It is relevant because it is actually in the moment.
So they get all that data as well.
And all that data has a huge, if my friend has had an accident, we can call the guy who's before us for the diapers, and we can immediately put an ad up there because we can all have a good laugh by sending him diapers the next morning. That's something that could never be done before.
Peter, so you're in the Facebook,
Sorry, I was going to say, I think with the Instagram thing, they did what Facebook did as well, where they put the people at the heart of the business. So like actually people being able to personalise the photos and making them relevant for their friends was the disruptive element as much as anything. And I think that when you look at the scale of it, $1 billion is not a lot of money. It sounds a lot, but it's not.
Okay. It is to me.
It's funny though that personalisation, MySpace was before Facebook, and you were allowed to personalise all of your pages, but that ultimately got rejected by consumers for the straight up look and feel of Facebook. Right?
So last question. So talking about exponential, we've talked about Jenny from the agency. So if we go 5 years forward, using, let's assume we're on the bit where we're 4 minutes to go, before it reaches the top. So we're in 2017 in Montreux, Festival of Media. What will we be talking about at 2017? Cameron, what will be the...
I've been waiting to do this.
Sorry, he's going to offend somebody now. So what will we be
Print is dead.
Print is dead.
Print is dead. Paper is done. We will not be talking about paper in 2017. And anybody that thinks that we are, go out and spend 10 minutes with a 2-year-old with an iPad. They know how to use it. My 2-year-old knows how to use my iPad. It's a game changer. It's all over.
All right,
I'm not saying content's dead. Paper is dead.
Right. Stephen, 2017?
I mean, to me, it's computer-augmented decisions, which is what we're talking about with regards to people in terms of computers helping you make better decisions. We'll reach all the way down to when I go to buy my diapers and I stare in front of the supermarket, I have a Siri-like device. It's helping me understand the benefits between each different product, and we know exactly price-wise what they're looking at, and the marketer has their opportunity to say their message right there and then.
You just got to buy the largest ones.
You got to buy the largest.
Don't buy the cheapest. I think that, exactly, just the continued evolution of the way we consume the content. I think that, even when you take your tablet home and it's appearing on your TV, and just the complete consumption of the socialization of content as well, I think is going to really, really sort of ramp in the next
So
years.
the agency model or how it works, same, evolve?
I think it becomes a content question. Or creating good content and finding the most efficient and ways to basically distribute.
But what does that do
to
media agencies? Media agencies said they were doing content and clients respected that, but they're not.
Because you still need the paid element. I mean, and what I was saying before about creating a good app, and apps don't suddenly appear. People invest money in distribution of stuff. That's a fact. Because the viral uplift of stuff isn't as great as it was when things emerged. But I think ultimately agencies can still play a role in the distribution of the content. But it's making sure that the content is put at the centre rather than how much money can we spend on it.
Brilliant. That's it. We'll let you go to the bar. Just can you please say thank you to my 3 speakers? If you go on the Twitter feed for Festival of Media, there's a little tweet that's got everybody's Twitter address if you want to follow them or share any butts or get any other parts. And they're very happy to chat to people in the bar. What I think we'll be talking about in 2017 is glasses which have got virtual reality. So as you look at somebody, you don't have to look at their tag anymore. It will have their name above their head, and it will identify people that you need to talk to. But anyway, thank you very much.